You wake up in the middle of the night and realize she's not by your side. Again. You go to the living room and find her on the couch, scrolling on her phone with that smile you haven't seen in months when you're around her. You ask if she's okay. She doesn't even lift her eyes from the screen. "I'm tired," she says. But you know it's not tiredness. It's disinterest. It's coldness. It's a door slammed in your face every night, and you don't even know when you lost the key. Maybe you're living this right now. Or maybe you know someone who is. A dedicated man, hardworking, faithful. A guy who does everything right. Pays the bills, helps at home, tries to be romantic, never looks at another woman. And yet, his woman acts as if he's invisible. As if he were a burden. An annoyance she tolerates because she has to, but no longer desires. This is the silent nightmare of thousands of faithful men around the world. Men who wake up every day next to a woman who promised to love them in joy and in sorrow, but now only offers indifference. And the worst part, when they try to talk, the blame always falls on them. The truth nobody wants to talk about is this: there is a type of emotional abuse that leaves no visible marks but destroys from within. And it happens inside seemingly perfect homes, in marriages that look functional to outsiders, but are minefields of rejection and manipulation for those living there. Have you ever felt like you do everything right, but nothing is enough? That the more you try, the further she pulls away? That your gestures of affection are met with boredom or irritation? Then you need to understand one fundamental thing: the problem may not be you. For years, society has built a narrative where the man is always the villain of the story. If the marriage isn't going well, it's because he doesn't help at home. If she's distant, it's because he's not romantic. If there's no intimacy, it's because he doesn't listen to her. And the faithful man believes this. He internalizes this guilt. He starts to think he needs to be better, do more, become something that maybe she will finally admire. But here is the painful truth that needs to be said: some women use love as a currency. They offer affection only when they need something. A trip, an expensive gift, an important favor. In those moments, she becomes affectionate, attentive, interested again. But as soon as she gets what she wants, the coldness returns. And the cycle restarts. The faithful husband doesn't notice this pattern immediately. At first, he is confused. He thinks maybe she's just stressed with work, or tired with the children, or dealing with some personal issue she can't share. He gives space, offers support, takes on more responsibilities at home to lighten her load. And nothing changes. Then he tries communication. He sits with her, opens his heart, asks what's wrong, what he can do differently. And the answer he receives is devastating: "I don't know, I just don't feel anything anymore." Or worse, "The problem is you. You don't attract me anymore. You're not the man I imagined you would be." That sentence breaks something inside him. Because he has been exactly what he promised to be: loyal, present, hardworking. But now he discovers that this has no value. That she was waiting for another version of him. A version that may not even exist. And he starts to wonder, was I ever enough for her? The answer is frightening. Often, from the beginning, she already had impossible expectations. She married the idea of a fairy tale, not the reality of a shared life. When routine arrived, when marriage became work and partnership instead of eternal romance, she blamed the husband for the disillusionment. But look, this isn't about all marriages. Nor about all women. It's about a specific pattern that destroys good men. A pattern where faithfulness is treated as an obligation, not as a valuable choice. Where dedication is seen as weakness, not as strength. Where unconditional love is exploited, not valued. If you are living this, you need to understand something urgent: you are not alone. And you are not crazy. That feeling of always being wrong, of never being good enough, of walking on eggshells in your own home, this is not normal. This is not love. This is emotional control disguised as a relationship. And if you're enjoying this reflection and want to understand more about how to identify and deal with these destructive dynamics, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Because what we are about to reveal next will show exactly how this cycle works and why so many men get trapped in it without realizing it. Now, let me show you how this situation unfolds. How a man slowly loses pieces of himself while trying to save a marriage that may have never been what he believed it to be. The process of emotional destruction doesn't happen overnight. It is gradual, silent, almost imperceptible. It starts with small rejections that seem harmless. She pulls away when you try to kiss her, complains when you want to talk about your day, sighs impatiently when you make a joke. These are small, yet constant signs. At first, you ignore them. After all, every relationship has its ups and downs. You think it's just a rough phase that will pass. So you double your efforts. You start doing more house chores without her asking. Bring flowers home. Suggest a romantic dinner. Try to plan a special weekend just for the two of you. And do you know what happens? She accepts the flowers with a cold thank you. The dinner turns into a session where she spends more time on her phone than talking to you. The special weekend is cancelled because she doesn't feel like it, or has plans with her friends. But here's the crucial detail few men notice. When she needs something, everything changes. Suddenly, that distant and cold woman transforms. She smiles, shows affection, even initiates physical contact. You feel confused, but relieved. Finally, she's noticing you again. Finally, you are being valued again. Until you realize that this change has a specific reason. She wants to renovate the house, or needs a new car, or has a dream trip in mind. And you, starved for attention, do anything to keep that affection alive. You give her what she wants. And as soon as she gets it, the coldness returns as if it never left. This is the pattern of emotional manipulation. And the cruelest part is that you start conditioning yourself. Your brain associates doing things for her with receiving love. So you become an anxious provider, always seeking the next opportunity to please, to be useful, to earn a little affection. But there is something even more devastating in this dynamic: social humiliation. Because she doesn't keep the disdain behind closed doors. She takes it out into the world. At gatherings with friends, she makes jokes about you, comments on your flaws with a smile, as if it were funny, minimizes your achievements, rolls her eyes when you speak. And the worst part? Others laugh. Because it has become socially acceptable for a woman to belittle her husband in public. It's seen as female empowerment. As if it were healthy for her to have no filter in criticizing the man who supports, protects, and loves her. And you? You swallow it. Smile along. Because if you complain, you're labeled controlling, insecure, or sexist. Then you go home and try to talk about how much that hurt you. And she flips everything. Says you're too sensitive. That you can't take a joke. That the problem is your insecurity, not her behavior. And again, you internalize the blame. Start believing that you really are weak for feeling hurt. But let me tell you something nobody talks about. This behavior is not about you. It's about power. About control. About keeping you in a constant state of doubt, always trying to prove your worth, always seeking approval that never comes fully or permanently. Because if you felt secure and valued, you would have the power to choose. You could set boundaries. You could say no. You could demand reciprocity. But as long as you are emotionally hungry, accepting scraps of affection, she maintains total control of the relationship. And here comes another painful layer. Physical intimacy almost completely disappears. Not because you don't try, but because every attempt is met with rejection. She always has an excuse. She's tired, has a headache, stressed, not in the mood. And when it finally happens, it's usually mechanical, without connection, as if she's fulfilling a boring obligation. You feel the difference. Feel that she doesn't desire you. That she's only there out of obligation or convenience. And this corrodes your self-esteem in a way few things can. Because being rejected by the person you chose to love is one of the deepest pains there is. So you start to wonder, is it my body? My appearance? My performance? And you try to improve. Go to the gym. Buy new clothes. Try to be more attractive. But none of that works, because the problem was never physical. It was emotional. It was about her having lost or never having had true interest in you. And the saddest part? You know other men living the exact same situation. All faithful. All dedicated. All invisible in their own marriages. But nobody talks openly about it. Because there is shame in admitting that you are rejected by your own wife. As if that made you less of a man. The truth is that this dynamic is destroying entire families. Creating depressed, anxious, lost men. Men who dedicated their lives to being good husbands and fathers, but who are treated like dispensable employees in their own homes. And the scariest part, many don't even realize they are being emotionally abused, because society has normalized this female behavior. There comes a moment when everything explodes inside you. Not necessarily outwardly, but internally. It's that day when you look in the mirror and don't recognize the man staring back. Where is that confident guy you used to be? The one with dreams, goals, who felt capable and valuable. He's gone. In his place is someone tired, dimmed, living only to please a person who is never satisfied. This is the breaking point. And it happens differently for each man. For some, it's when they realize they can't remember the last time they genuinely smiled. For others, it's when the children start noticing that their father is always sad. Or when a friend comments that you've changed, that you're not the same person anymore. But usually, the trigger comes from something seemingly small. She makes a sarcastic comment about you in front of the kids. Or completely forgets your birthday while expecting you to plan elaborate celebrations for her. Or you find out she talks badly about you to her family, painting you as an inadequate husband while omitting everything you do. And in that moment, a devastating question invades your mind. How much longer am I going to live like this? The answer terrifies you. Because if nothing changes, it will be for the rest of your life. Decades of emotional loneliness within your own marriage. Decades being a ghost in the house you pay for. Decades loving someone who does not love you back. Here is the harshest truth you need to face. She will not change. Not because she can't, but because she has no reason to. The current system works perfectly for her. She has financial security, the social status of a married woman, someone who takes care of responsibilities, but without having to offer emotional or affectionate reciprocity. Why would she change a dynamic that benefits her completely? You keep paying the bills. Keep being present. Keep being faithful. Keep doing everything a husband is supposed to do. And her? She only needs to exist. She doesn't need to value you, desire you, respect you. You've already proven you accept crumbs. And when you finally try to set boundaries, when you say you can't take being treated like this anymore, do you know what happens? She becomes the victim. Suddenly, you're the selfish one. The insensitive one. The one who doesn't understand how much she suffers, how much she does, how much she endures. Your complaints are minimized. Your pain is ridiculed. And you feel guilty again for daring to ask for the minimum, to be loved. But there is something that changes everything. Something few men have the courage to admit to themselves. You start imagining what your life would be like without her. And this imagination doesn't come with sadness. It comes with relief, lightness, hope. You find yourself thinking about waking up without that weight on your chest. Coming home without anxiety. Having conversations where you don't have to measure every word for fear of being attacked. Finding someone who truly sees you, values you, desires you. And this fantasy scares you, because you always saw yourself as the man who would never give up on the marriage. But is it really giving up? Or is it choosing yourself after years of choosing someone who doesn't choose you back? That is the question that eats away at you inside. Because we were taught that a real man endures everything. That a real man never abandons his family. That fidelity is about staying, no matter the cost. But nobody told you that the cost can be too high. That you can be so faithful to the marriage that you become unfaithful to yourself. That you can fight so hard for a relationship that you completely lose your identity in the process. That sacrifice has limits, and you surpassed all of them a long time ago. And here is the most painful moment of all, when you realize that perhaps you were never loved the way you believed. That perhaps from the very beginning, you were a convenient choice, not a true passion. That she married the stability you represented, not the man you are. This realization breaks something deep inside. Because it means you invested years, sacrificed dreams, dedicated your life to a love that was one-sided. You were building a future together while she was merely existing beside you. You saw partnership where there was only convenience. And now you are here. Right at this moment. Where you need to make a decision that will define the rest of your life. Continue in this emotional prison, accepting that this is your destiny? Or do something you never imagined doing, set real boundaries, demand concrete changes, or even consider that maybe this marriage is no longer sustainable? The answer lies within you. But before deciding anything, you need to understand something fundamental. The problem was never that you weren't enough. The problem is that you became too available, too predictable, too safe. And for some people, Safety does not generate desire. It generates complacency. Your fidelity, your dedication, your unconditional love should be your greatest attributes. But for her, they became guarantees that you will never leave. And people who feel secure that you will never go away stop making an effort to keep you. So, what do you do now? How do you get out of this emotional prison without becoming bitter, without repeating the same mistakes, without completely losing faith in love? The answer lies in rebuilding something that has been destroyed over the years, your sense of self-worth. You need to understand something fundamental. True love is not constant sacrifice. True love is reciprocity. It's two people actively choosing to be together, not one person desperately trying to keep the other interested. If you're the only one fighting, you've already lost a long time ago. The first thing you need to do is stop seeking her validation. Stop trying to prove your worth. Stop expecting that one day she'll wake up and finally recognize everything you do. That's not going to happen. And do you know why? Because she isn't blind. She sees everything you do. She simply doesn't value it. There's a brutal difference between someone who doesn't notice your effort and someone who notices but chooses not to value it. And you are dealing with the second case. She knows exactly what you offer. She just decided it's not enough to deserve reciprocity. Now, this doesn't mean you need to get divorced immediately. But it does mean you need to set clear boundaries. And boundaries aren't ultimatums or threats. Boundaries are decisions you make about how you will allow yourself to be treated. They are lines you draw to protect your dignity. Start redirecting the energy you used to spend trying to please her toward yourself. Reconnect with hobbies. Reconnect with friends. Invest in your personal and professional growth. Not to make her jealous or manipulate her, but because you deserve a full life, independent of her mood or approval. And here's an interesting thing that can happen. When you stop being emotionally available all the time, when you stop chasing her attention, two things can occur. Either she notices your emotional absence and finally wakes up to what she's losing, or she doesn't even notice because she never truly cared. Both outcomes will give you the clarity you need. If she reacts positively, seeking to reconnect genuinely, then maybe there's something worth saving. But if she doesn't even notice your emotional absence, you have your definitive answer about the value you have in her life. But regardless of her response, you need to do something revolutionary. Stop being afraid of being alone. Because the fear of loneliness is what keeps you trapped in an empty relationship. You accept crumbs because you believe it's better than having nothing. But let me tell you a liberating truth. Physical solitude is infinitely better than emotional solitude within a marriage. Being alone and at peace is better than being accompanied and constantly rejected. You can survive without her. You can even thrive without her. And what about fidelity? Your loyalty is valuable. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. But loyalty cannot be your only quality. You can't just be the faithful man who endures everything silently. You need to be the man who respects himself enough to demand reciprocity. Many men get stuck because they confuse love with persistence. They think if they give up, they are failing. But there's a fine line between fighting for a relationship and destroying yourself for it. And you crossed that line a long time ago. The most important lesson here is this. You cannot love someone who doesn't want to be loved by you. You cannot force connection where only indifference exists. You cannot build a marriage alone. And the sooner you accept this, the faster you can make healthy decisions for your life. If you decide to stay, do so with clear boundaries and real demands for change. Don't accept empty promises. Demand concrete actions. Couples therapy. Honest conversations. Genuine effort from her. And if she's not willing to do this, you have your answer. If you decide to leave, know that there is no shame in it. There is no failure in choosing your mental and emotional health. There is no cowardice in walking away from someone who mistreats you. You gave your best. You were loyal as far as humanly possible. Now it's time to be loyal to yourself. And to you watching who identifies with all of this, I want you to understand, your story doesn't have to end this way. You have the power to choose. You have the right to be truly loved. You deserve someone who sees you, values you, desires you. Stop accepting less than you deserve just because you're afraid to start over. Stop believing that your loyalty obligates you to remain in a destructive relationship. Stop nullifying yourself to fit the expectations of someone who will never be satisfied. If you've made it this far and these words have touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and like the video. Share it with a friend who needs to hear this. Because this message could be the start of the transformation you need so badly. Your liberation begins when you decide that your peace is worth more than any relationship.